Hello, my friends, family, esteemed colleagues. My friend asked me to shed light a little bit on biometritis in dogs, and why are veterinarians recommending people to spay their dogs to avoid this health issue? Well, the answer is simple. If you do not know why the dogs are suffering from this problem, and you don't know how to resolve it, how to prevent it, the only knowledge is how to surgically remove uterus, then this is what you are going to be recommending, and you will start recommending it on a healthy dog to avoid the situation as a precaution. Now, what is pyometra? Pyometra is buildup of a pus inside of uterus. Now, why dogs are the most likely animals to suffer from pyometra? Because women can suffer from this too, but women, they mostly have endometritis or endometritis, which is just inflammation of endometrium, which is the inner lining of uterus. And very seldom it goes into stage of creating pus, which then is attributed to bacterial infestation, Escherichia coli causing problems, and of course usage of antibiotics to treat it. Same thing is then recommended in the dogs when they have symptoms of pyometritis or pyometra. And what are the symptoms? Well, lethargy, loss of appetite, increased consumption of liquid, water. They drink more, they urinate more. And then it will be even fever and pain because pyometra is not only accumulation of the pus, but it is involving also inflammatory process. Now this is attributed to the other symptom that occurs at that time, which is a change of values of hormones. Hormones change. Why? Because pyometra usually occurs in dogs about 1.5 to 2 months after they are out of heat. Now, what happens when the dog is in heat? Well, it's increased blood flow to uterus. And we know if blood is toxic, the organ that is more active is going to receive most of the toxicity. And what happens with the skin? When we are pushing toxins out through the skin, we start having skin rashes, inflammations, thickening of the skin because of additional layer buildup. Body is trying to push the toxins out, so it creates a new layer of skin pushing out and pushing out, and the skin actually becomes thicker. Same is happening with inner skin. We call it mucosal tissue, in this case endometrium. Because when a lot of toxicity comes through blood, the same thing occurs. Uterus is designed to maintain, to have maintenance monthly, to be kept as clean as possible, because it is there to bring on new life. And if blood is toxic, so the blood is disused to cleanse, now it's bringing toxins. And normally what happens that body is trying to protect itself, so it tries to separate these toxins as soon as they come into the area of this organ, and they start creating a bag in which they push these toxins in, and we call them cysts. So women that have a cysts, well, they have them cysts to prevent endometritis or endometritis. So same with the dogs. But body cannot separate all the garbage that comes in, and a lot of it goes through making the tissue toxic. Endometrium becomes toxic, starts creating additional layers, and thickening. And every time new cycle comes, endometrium will get thicker and thicker. In women, very often, the endometriosis becomes so large that it causes prolapses. The wall of the uterus becomes so thick that it basically increases the volume of the endometrium, and it starts coming out through the openings. We call it prolapse of vagina. This can happen in dogs too. This can happen in any mammal. And occasionally it occurs. But in nature, this is hard to find. This is typical for domestic animals. Oh, and again, even in domestic animals, in pigs, you don't see it often. In cows, you don't see it often. But in the dogs, you see it very often. Now, why? Because the other domestic animals, we use them for food. So they don't live long. There's no time for the whole process to develop. And in the case of dogs, well, they are our companions. They live a long life. And older they get, because of the toxic blood, the uterus is getting in worse and worse shape until finally it comes out with endometriosis. And because animals are being poisoned, same as we are, mostly through food, but also through protective measures, which we cannot discuss, then the toxicity increases rapidly. And we have occurrence of these chronic problems sooner rather than later. So, what is making the dog so toxic? Mind you, it happens in cats, but cat is domesticated. Cat, no matter how much you feed it, it still will hunt. And if you overfeed it, like my wife does, then after it kills the animal or the rat or lizard, it doesn't eat it. It just leaves it as a gift. Puts it in our bed as a gift. But if you don't overfeed the animal, then it is going to eat also the kill. And this is natural food that is going to keep the animal healthier. This is why cats, even when we feed them incorrectly, they are still healthier than dogs, because dogs have no opportunity to hunt. We don't give them the opportunity. They strictly are dependent on the food we give them. And if you ask a vet what food to get, well, what does vet know? Well, vet knows about the diet. Well, it knows the processes better, but in general, about the diet, knows as much as doctor or nutritionist. It's all misunderstanding. It's all indoctrinated garbage information. So if you feed the cat dry food, this is basically 80% or more carbohydrate, then cat is going to have certain diseases, like male cat is going to have problem with obstruction of uterus, urinary tract. It is not going to be able to urinate. And then there is a surgery, and there is a recommendation of low ash food, less carbohydrates. And if you give them a canned food, which is all chemically loaded processed food, they are going to develop leukemia. Like children, when they eat too much frankfurters. Frankfurter is the worst garbage meat product you can buy on the market. And if you eat a lot of it, you will develop leukemia, among the rest. But when we go to dogs, people buy them. Okay, the cheapest food is based on soy. The more expensive on rice. And the most expensive now, new trend, on legumes, because scientifically, legumes have more protein, so they are healthier. Scientifically, legumes have more biotoxins, and they are actually the worst possible additive to food that makes you more toxic. And it affects humans and animals alike negatively. We should keep away from legumes. Any carbohydrate is processed, but especially legumes. So the best version would be based on rice, but still, this is far cry because you are creating glucose in body, and then you have a problem with things which I cannot mention because last video was bad and I was almost kicked out of YouTube completely because I mentioned this. It's almost as bad as this thing. Okay. Oh, actually, this they will not catch because it's it is this thing here. Okay, if you have a glucose body, you don't produce it. You are producing a different compound that is hydrolyzing glucose, so you can use it for energy production. And if you don't produce this particular thing, then your body cannot label what has to be taken out. And your macrophage, your white blood cells, then cannot clean it. So macrophages would take layers, toxic layers, that are low on voltage, they would take them out. But they don't know about it because it's not labeled. You're not producing, dogs are not producing the label the same as we don't when we are in glucose state. So all dog food is based on carbohydrate. And as long as you feed a dog like this, dog is going to have the same health issue as humans. Will succumb to same diseases. And pyometra is one of them. So, doctor says, if you don't want to breed the dog, we recommend you have the dog spayed, taking uterus out, so this way we are avoiding the possibility of occurrence of this disease. And then, if you agree and they are spaying the dog, then they will tell you, well, we should do mastectomy at the same time because hormonal changes will occur and there is more chance of appearance of breast cancer. Well, again, symptom of change of hormonal activity is being attributed. This is being, pyometra is being blamed on it, and cancer is being blamed on it, because we notice that usually in a shift of the levels of hormones in the blood, we also find these processes. So since we don't understand, no doctor can explain you in which way does hormonal activity influence these problems. No, culprit unknown. But because it occurs, it's being blamed onto it. So hormonal change is blamed. How? We don't know, but must be because hormone change and this happens. When does pyometra occur on dogs? Usually on older dog about a month and a half, 2 months after the dog is coming out of heat. Well, during the heat, there is increased flow of blood, increased toxicity, all these buildup of additional tissues happen, thickening of endometrium. And now, when that's over, now this has to be taken out. Well, but how do you take it out when it's too much of it? And you don't have production of this thing here. I don't know if you can even see it. It's sad we cannot talk openly because truth is not allowed still. So if you don't produce that, your body cannot work correctly, cannot do the proper maintenance, and then you start having appearance of necrotic tissue. There is nothing to take out the necrotic tissue, which again you need that thing that you are not producing. So bacteria come in. Could be a Escherichia coli to munch on that stuff. But what causes the problem are the enzymes of decay, the necrotic tissue. All this is starting to create pus. You find bacteria in there or no? Same thing happens. So we have bacteria is excused. Oh, now we know, sure, antibiotic. Well, you can do antibiotic, you can use it even without bacteria there, and you will have symptoms of calming process because you are closing the cells from absorption. This way they are protected from these decaying enzymes which are happening, but you still have to cleanse this stuff out. It's not simple. And the true cause of action should be prevention. How do you prevent? Well, stop poisoning your dog with carbohydrates. Stop listening to vet's recommendation. He does not know better because he was misguided in medical school. And he makes money on what he sells. He's not going to recommend raw meat because he doesn't sell it. He'll recommend what he has to make buck on. And all this processed food, as it is toxic for humans, so is toxic for the dogs. And the same diseases will occur. And since dog lives its normal span, you don't kill it prematurely for meat, then older it is, the more problem. Also, when do you see biometra more? In fat dogs. Why? Because they eat a lot of toxic food. Same like in humans. So if you have an older dog, older female dog, that is obese, well, you should worry about biometra. It's most likely going to happen. And then listen to your vet and take the uterus out. The best is to prevent it. Start feeding the dog correctly. Start feeding it with the milk, with eggs, with meat. All this stuff has to be raw. And then you don't have to worry about anything. And you don't. And even if you decide to spay the dog because you don't want to suffer from this time when dog is in heat twice a year and gets crazy around the house and all the dogs in the neighborhood, you cannot even walk it out because it's problematic. So if you want to have a peace of mind, okay, spay it, no problem. My 2 dogs I have, females, are spayed, and my 4 cats, 3 female, 1 male, they are all spayed and neutered. Because we don't want more babies around to whom to give them. They don't have natural enemies here, we protect them. So it would be overpopulation. How do wolves solve this process? Well, wolves know that they have limited food resources. So they don't want the family flock to grow big. So permission for breeding is set only with the dominant alpha male and female. They are the only one procreating, which means all the other male and female wolves, they don't even copulate. They are not allowed to. And they don't have breast cancers. They don't have pyometra because they eat correctly. They have hormonal changes every time. Before a cycle, after cycle, there is a shift of hormones, but you don't have diseases because the shift of hormones has absolutely nothing to do with pyometra, with endometriosis, endometrial arthritis, prolapses, nothing to do with it. It's all about toxicity, incorrect food, incorrect hydration. You correct these things, you have nothing to worry about. So if you have a dog and you don't want to breed it, my recommendation, spay the dog. Fix it, neuter it, and feed them correctly anyway. Because you want the dog to be healthy and you don't want to have headaches. If you want to breed them, then don't spay them, breed them, and don't worry about any disease if you feed them correctly. If you don't feed them correctly, yeah, worry because it's going to happen. Having uterus or not having uterus, there is going to be disease happening. Not on uterus that it doesn't have, but it could be a mammary gland. So if you cut those out, okay, now there. Better they cut the head off, and this way you know no other disease will ever come. No matter how you feed this mouse that is left over. I mean, this is ridiculous. And it's all reaction to our misguided misunderstanding. Doctors have no clue, vets have no clue. They are just regurgitating what they are served. Okay? So, that's easy fix. Start feeding your animals correctly. And then you don't have to worry about any disease. When you feed them meat, also put a little bit of sea salt on it so they drink more water, so they can flush. I put salt, sea salt on their food, and I put sea salt in their water. And I put a little bit of colloidal silver in the water. And they prefer the water that has colloidal silver over the water without. Only I have to keep the water dish, has to be plastic or ceramic, and it is in a darker corner in the house, so no direct light comes. So the nanoparticle silver does not oxidize and turn the water black. And my animals, they are healthy. They don't even shed. You can have cat in your arm, dog in your arm. You can have a black sweater. There is not going to be hair on it. I guarantee it. We have 4 cats, 2 dogs. They are growing our furniture. There is no hair on anything. I pet them often. No hair. No hair on hands. No hair on clothing. So you resolve a lot of problems. Feed your animals correctly. If you don't know, don't ask vet. Check what breed of animal it is, how they eat in the nature. If you have a cat, look what cats eat. They are strict carnivores. If you have a dog, look how wolf eats. They are omnivores that are carnivores that eat fruits like us. Or bear. If you have a parrot, check what kind of parrot you have. Check in the nature what they eat. Get him that kind of food. But I can assure you, every parrot loves meat. My parents were crazy whenever I was eating meat. They wanted to bite away. You cannot go wrong giving meat to any animal, even cow. Okay, so knowing the truth saves you a lot of trouble. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. God bless us all and love you. Namaste.